Hey guys! For those of you that don't know me, my name is in fact Lauren Russell, and it's me right here. The author that I'm reporting on is Deadria C Farmer-Paellmann, and this is an excerpt from Black Exodus, the Ex-Slave Pension Movement Reader. Okay, so Deadria Farmer-Paellmann grew up in East New York, which is a suburb of Brooklyn. And when she was 7, she moved to Bensonhurst, I want to say, which is another suburb of Brooklyn. And she was 7 when they moved, and then she describes that was really her first experience with racism because her family was the only African American family in the whole neighborhood. There's actually a really good quote from Deadria Farmer-Paellmann that describes when she was younger. She says that probably not a day went by when I didn't hear a racial slur. It seems like every time the window was repaired, something would get thrown through it again. So it kind of describes how people treated her in her own city. Farmer-Paellmann was really interested about her family's heritage growing up, and her great-grandparents and her grandfather, his name was Willie Capers, they were slaves on St. Helena Island, and they were working on a rice plantation. Capers, in retelling the family history, used to just say, they still owe us the 40 acres and a mule, referring to the Emancipation Proclamation, where you would get, 40 acres and a mule for as reparations for being a slave. And Farmer-Paellmann always looked to her mother for advice when dealing with the racism, and her mother said, the best thing you can do against racism at your age is through academic success. So her mother really pushed her to do really well in school. Deadria Farmer-Paellmann decided she recognized the fact that that was her best way to fight racism, to get a great education. So she went all the way and she became a lawyer. She went to law school. Farmer-Paellmann started off at Brooklyn College in the 1980s, getting a BA in political science. Then in 1995, she went over to George Washington University, where she got an MA in political campaign management. And then to round out all of that, she went over to New England School of Law in 1999. She got her JD. One of the first events that started Farmer-Paellmann's activism was an event in 1992. She was called down to Lower Manhattan. So it's an African burial ground from the 18th century, which was being excavated because they were making room for a new government building and its parking structure. And Farmer-Paellmann was really upset because she got a private tour of what they were doing, and she thought these people served, they worked, they lived and died in this country, and they didn't get any payment. They didn't receive any payment for anything they did. So that's what really started her work for reparations. Farmer-Paellmann is known for all of her lawsuits for reparations against big-name corporations. Paellmann started off by doing a lot of research on big-name corporations that help maintain slavery. And she gives the example of reading Charles Blockson's book, Black Genealogy, and she found out that Aetna Incorporated, which is an insurance company, used to have a predecessor company that wrote life insurance for slaves, and it named their owners as beneficiaries. So she read over the Aetna, it was called the Aetna slave policy. She read over that and she was really, really distraught. She explains how she was crying and everything. So she did what she thought was best, and she called Aetna and she demanded an apology from them and demanded that they pay restitutions for all of the things that they did. And so Aetna agreed, and in 2000 they issued an apology saying, we're sorry for everything in the past. But here's the kicker, they did not pay anything that they had promised. They didn't pay anything back to the descendants of the slaves or any restitution. So Farmer-Paellmann went farther, and she actually filed a lawsuit in a federal court in Brooklyn, and she named Fleet Boston Financial, the railroad firm CSX, and of course Aetna Insurance. She was a little ticked off after their whole thing, and 100 other companies that she believed had predecessor companies that were maintaining slavery. And she says there's conspiracy, human rights violations, unjust enrichment from their corporate predecessor roles, and the slave trade and conversion of the value of the slave's labor into their profits. So she's just kind of angry that they're making profits off of all this slavery. However, the lawsuit doesn't ask for a specific amount of money to be paid. It estimates slaves performed as much as $40 million worth of slavery between 1790 and 1860, but the value of it now would be as high as $1.4 trillion that she's looking for in restitution. Deadria C Farmer-Paellmann is the founder of Restitution Study Group, and it's a nonprofit looking to raise all this money so they can go forward with filing lawsuits for restitution. Farmer-Paellmann's chapter is most similar to the chapter entitled Reparations, an Idea Whose Time Has Come, written by John Conyers Jr. and Raymond Winbush's and The Earth Moved, Stealing Black Lands in the United States. Because all three of them talk about the history of reparations and how far the movement has come. And
Debt of Honor was written by Christopher Hitchens, who also supported reparations. He went about it in a different way than Farmer-Paellmann. He showed more of his side through publications rather than Farmer-Paellmann, who does a lot of her stuff through activism.
One of the chapters that has an opposing view of Farmer-Paellmann's is Presumed Victims by Armstrong Williams. He believes that if we start paying reparations, then people are going to claim themselves as victims to the cause, and that it will financially bankrupt this country because of how many people will claim that they're a victim. Shelby Steele is also against reparations. He believes that it encourages people to believe that they're victims, and he says that you can't trade in your honor for dollars. And he believes that people that are descendants of slaves can't be paid for them. He believes that doesn't solve any problems, really. So.
It's apparent that Farmer-Paellmann is for reparations, but her chapter isn't meant to persuade anyone. It's more about giving information about the fight for reparations and how far the movement has come.
So that's all I have for you guys about Deadria C Farmer-Paellmann. And if you have any questions, I'm going to be standing somewhere in this direction, I'm pretty sure. And now it is time for the answers to the crossword puzzle I gave you guys. We're going to start with across. For across, Farmer-Paellmann's grandfather, that was Willie Capers. 5 across was Farmer-Paellmann was known for her lawsuits against big name corporations. 8 across, her mother said this was the best way to fight racism. She told Farmer-Paellmann to get a good education. 1 down. This policy gave insurance benefits to slave owners. That was the Aetna slave policy. 2 down. Lived in this city while growing up. She moved around Brooklyn a couple of times, so. 3 down. Studied this while at Brooklyn College. She majored in political science. Farmer C. Paellmann is the founder of the Restitution Study Group. And this whole chapter is an excerpt from her book, Black Exodus, the Ex-Slave Pension Movement Reader. So I hope you guys got all of those right. So, yeah.